Hello, welcome to Barely Tactical. I'm Sean, and this is Barely a Review, a new format I'm going to be trying out where I'm going to review games or DLCs that I particularly enjoy, or if someone really wants me to review something, feel free to, pop me a message or a comment or whatever. I'll happily consider it. This is going to be a very light-hearted sort of thing where I kind of give an overview and I try to look at it from a single player and both a multiplayer perspective, but nothing too in depth. If people do want in-depth videos on stuff, feel free to leave a comment. I'll happily try and take a look into it and give my best possible in-depth video on it as quickly as I possibly can. Time is, as everyone knows, such a bloody in-demand thing. So that's out of the way. What is Astral Planes? Well, Astral Planes is the new story-based DLC for Stellaris. The premise is that you have had an astral rift hanging over your homeworld since the dawn of time. Now, your species are naturally inquisitive, as all species generally are, and want to go and prod it. So we're trying to see what goes in, well, what happens when something goes in, what comes out, and maybe explore the Swiss cheese that is the galaxy. Now, what is new with the DLC? The biggest part of it is obviously the Astral Rifts. There are over 30 in total. These are a new form of archaeological site that have a branching narrative resulting in multiple possible endings. Once you've completed an Astral Rift, you can gain a wide variety of powerful rewards. Now, as these are like archaeological sites, well, I mean, they pretty much are an archaeological site just renamed, they can be rather unpredictable, just like its predecessor. This makes scientist skill level really important, and also leveling them up for success chance within this is going to really help you out with getting through the rifts as quickly and as rewardingly, is that even a word, as possible. That's something to definitely keep in mind. Now, with this, there is a new resource that is known as Astral Threads. This is rewarded after completing a Rift site, but also sometimes a node may spawn on the Rift site once the event has been completed, allowing you to go and extract it, gaining a passive amount of Astral Threads. The new resource, it can be used in the typical ways, such as selling it or using it to improve relations with other empires or species, but it's not the only use. You are able to spend threads on a new system called Astral Actions. I'll be pretty brief on this just to try to avoid spoilers and stuff, but we've been told that the actions can be very powerful, ranging from a singular use to being able to be used multiple times. I'm guessing multiple times is probably it's going to give you a passive, science boost or an energy boost, that sort of thing. I've not looked at it really in depth yet, but that's kind of the message that I get from it. We've been told that the highest tier actions are generally only able to be used between 1 to 3 times during a typical playthrough. There are 10 of these for players who don't have the Overlord DLC, and there are 14 for those who do. We've also been told there are 8 new relics, which is quite interesting, and also we have a set of 4 new civics. Well, I say 4 new civics. We actually have 4 categories of civics, each having multiple subcategories within it, which I will go on to now. I'm going to give a very brief description of kind of the outlining idea behind them, and I will have all the civics up on the screen, so you feel free to pause the video and actually look at the sub-civics if you want to know in depth as to what they do. The first one is the Hyperspace Specialty Civic. The focus on this is early exploration, giving you a physics boost, which is quite important with the story that is in the DLC, and also giving you a hyperlane speed boost. The next one is Dimensional Worship Civic, which is a spiritualist civic, so you have to be some form of spiritualist, to take these. It boosts Unity, which is the main thing about it. And from what I can tell, and from what I've watched other people saying, it's kind of 50-50 on how useful it will actually be. Kind of have to wait to see what develops with the free patch that's dropping as well. And, general updates that they might do to tweak things. The next one is the Dark Consortium Civic. This is more kind of aligned with Megacorps. This is quite nice because I like playing Megacorps. The most fun thing about this is you can potentially rush becoming the Crisis and nuking the hell out of the galaxy. But there are also a ton of other benefits, giving you access to dark matter technology relatively quick, relatively easily. So it's going to be one that could be a lot of fun to mess around with. The last one is the Sovereign Guardianship Civic. This is supporting potentially tall plays. I have heard arguments that it's actually not that amazing for tall plays. I'm not a tall player in Stellaris. Maybe I'll give it a go one day, so I can't really comment on its effectiveness. But there are people saying that actually this is going to benefit a wider play style more than it is a tall one. Okay, so of course, with, new story DLC, there should be a new origin, right? And there is Riftworld, and it's been labeled as the Launchpad Origin. The purpose of it is to basically give you the quickest access to the astral planes that, you wouldn't get if you were picking another origin. The effect of this is that it spawns the Ancient Crater archaeological site in your home system, whilst also increasing the chances for a rift to spawn in your controlled systems by 100%, and increasing your efficiency and effectiveness in exploring them. My first thoughts with looking at it is that bit is quite fun. You get straight into the story stuff as quickly as possible. It helps you out with being successful in it. But beyond that, unless anything develops with the origin, it's kind of a little bit lackluster. I feel like there could be a few other benefits to it, or something like that to flesh it out a little bit more, because as it stands, it feels like a very, very brief thing. And when an origin is, a very particularly important part of your species in Stellaris, having something that is this brief kind of makes it feel a little bit dull. Okay, so the next bit, it's kind of a big question mark. A new Crisis, possibly, I think. All that's been mentioned from what I've seen is that there is a new entity, and it's been named as the Formless. There was some little sneak peek things in, I think it might have been the trailer or another thing that Paradox had released, where if you managed to catch the text, it said something, I think it was along the lines of feed us, or we will feed, or something like that, which kind of indicates to me that there's something big and bad lurking in these rifts, and prodding it might not be a good idea, but we'll prod it anyway because we're all sadistic and like torturing ourselves. Yeah, I'm looking at people who like to open the L gates. Yeah, it's your fault. Or the gateways, everything. When people see the big red button and they press it, this is for them. These are the people who have done this. Again, there's nothing confirming exactly what the Formless are. I've tried looking around. I've not seen anything. I might have missed something. Feel free to let me know if I have missed something. I'm going to probably come across it because I'll be streaming. I'll be doing a live stream of this on Twitch. So I'll be playing through it. I've already got a playthrough planned out. I'll be playing as an evil Dark Consortium, where I will be basically saying trade or die, which is, that's totally how economics works, isn't it? Right. And so with the DLC, there is also a free update coming. Now, I'm not the biggest technical person on with Stellaris. So I've glanced over the patch notes, which there is a lot of information in them. If you want to get a good overview of what's going on with the patch, I recommend looking at Montu's video, because he's done a very in-depth thing. Brilliant creator. I'll leave a link to his video in the description because I highly recommend going and looking at it. Even if I did do a video going in depth, I won't understand it on the level that he does. Be totally honest with you. So a couple of the bits that I noticed that kind of stood out to me were that the leader caps are now per class. So there's no longer a global leader cap, which is really nice. Exceeding 1 only affects that class. So if you have too many scientists, it only affects the scientists. It doesn't have a global effect, which again is quite a nice thing to have. Admirals and generals have now been merged into the commander, a military leader class. The old governors and some envoy functions have been merged into officials, which is the administrative leader class, and scientists remain the 3rd class, which is just the scientific leader class. As part of the redesign, they've gone through and rebalanced or replaced hundreds of the leader traits. Many have changed significantly, but the overall power level has generally been decreased. So leaders aren't going to be as powerful as they originally were. They still are going to have some decent effects, but it's kind of going to feel like, yeah, okay, they're a nice little bonus, but they aren't the be-all and end-all, which kind of felt like how it was going originally, that it was like, well, you have to really, really focus your leaders to get some really, really nice buffs. In order to ensure that leader leveling feels rewarding, regardless of owning galactic paragons or not, traits chosen when leveling up will now be biased towards the leader's current position. So it's kind of, this is the whole thing. It was like rounding the governors off to make them better as a whole, whilst nerfing them a little bit is kind of the idea that I'm getting from it. Those were the biggest things that stood out in the free patch. Like I said, if you want a really in-depth thing, feel free to go and look at Montu's video. I will link it in the description because it's a very good video and he's done a brilliant job of it, and he's very, very knowledgeable on Stellaris, much more so than I am. I like it from the perspective of pew pew, I can blow up planets, and that's pretty much it. So my overall thoughts, it's a little difficult to give a total final judgment without being at least somewhat aware of what will be going on in the narrative. Like I said earlier, I kind of feel like the origin itself is a little lackluster, but that's going to be totally reliant on how much you get out of the narrative, like what buffs you get, what kind of what the astral planes actions do, those sort of things, because being able to jump into them a little quicker might make it worthwhile, but I feel like overall it probably won't make the origin itself worthwhile, which is a bit of a shame. The civics, however, are very interesting. I think with the exception of the spiritualist ones, which are kind of 50-50, there's probably a way to make them really, really beneficial. But again, that's going to be, catering to a very specific play style. Whereas the others feel like they are a little bit more varied in how you could play. One thing that does kind of disappoint me is that Gestalt has been ignored a bit again, where they can access the stuff, but they are going to not have anywhere near the same level of boost that they would, that non-Gestalt empires and races would have, which is a shame because I love hive minds. I love being robots. I think they're incredibly fun to play as, and they do just feel like they've been kind of left out a little bit. I hope something changes with that in an update at some point down the line. That would be really, really good. That would make it so much more better for me personally. Overall, the DLC itself, is it worthwhile grabbing? I think if you are going to be interested in the roleplay focus of Stellaris, going down the story, exploring that, then absolutely. If you're more of a co-op player and you're especially more of a PvP player, I don't know if it's worth it. I think it may well be a case of you might grab it for the civics, but then do you want to pay the increased price just for the civics aspect? Because obviously the price of the DLC has gone up. It's the most expensive story DLC. It's priced at the same level as like Galactic Paragons, I believe. The actual proper bulky DLCs. So it's kind of, I feel like it's a very situational thing. If you want to know, well, you want to play from a roleplay focus, yes. Multiplayer, probably not, is my view on it. So thank you for watching. If you got to this bit, I really appreciate you. Any likes and comments are massively, massively appreciated. And I would really, really appreciate it as well if people subscribed, because I am starting to try to focus a little bit more on YouTube, not just my Twitch channel, which I will leave a link in the description below. But yeah, thank you, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.